question itself is, what book should I read for personal growth? Now, I see a lot of videos out there on which books are the best books for personal development. And the answer I'm going to give you is a little bit, my bad, I'm just trying to adjust my hat. The answer I'm going to give you is a little bit, I won't say controversial, but it's going to be a different type of question, a different type of answer than I think most people on the internet would give. So what most people do is they give their book recommendations. They give like 5 to 10 different books that have helped them out, all that stuff. I could do that. I've read tons of books. At this point, I've read literally hundreds of books in a variety of different topics: finance, real estate, personal development, health hacking, biology, robotics, technology, philosophy, psychology, a bunch of different topics. So I could give you the best 5 to 10 books from each of those categories, but I won't do that. And this is the reason why I won't do that. My personal opinion, and this is again after reading tons of books, one is that most books, they contain maybe about 1 or 2 core concepts, which you can understand pretty easily in, let's say, 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes. You can probably get a good grasp on it. If you're the kind of person that can read a book, you can probably understand the concept of the book in a very short period of time. And then the rest of the book, the other, say, 180, 200, 300, 500 pages, however long the book is, usually what the book is all about is anecdotes and, to a degree, fluff, in my personal opinion, to almost pad the book. Sometimes the anecdotes are valuable because the anecdotes kind of give you real-life situations about how to apply these concepts, or it'll help you understand where the concepts came from. But I tend to find in general, once you kind of read one anecdote, maybe 2 anecdotes, you can get the gist of the point. And in that situation, you no longer need to understand the concept, you need to apply the concept. So my personal opinion is that a lot of books are just fluff. You can understand the concept pretty quickly. Now, in 2023, which is when I'm recording this video, I actually don't recommend many books. What I do recommend you do, and this is a weird answer to this question, is live life, have experiences, and when a problem comes up, go ask Google or ChatGPT for an answer. Specifically now, I would just use ChatGPT. So let's say, for example, you want to get in shape. You don't know how to get in shape. Rather than sit there and read a bunch of different books trying to figure out the best ways to get in shape, the best routine you can have, how to understand diet and nutrition, just go on ChatGPT and say, how do I get in shape? And then you go down the rabbit hole. By you doing that, you'll get more specific answers to your questions, and you won't have to waste time reading a bunch of books. And this is the reason why I don't really have a list of books to give you. I tend to find that a lot of people, and this is myself included back in the day, people read books not because they want to learn things, not because it's the most effective or the most efficient way to learn things. It's to make themselves feel more intelligent. And it's almost to fool your brain into believing that you're actually doing something important or valuable rather than actually doing something valuable. In 2023, most books you can probably find, and there are exceptions, obviously. I'm not saying every single book that's out there is not worth reading. But I would say 95, maybe 90% of books out there are not worth reading. And you could probably understand the concepts and the lessons that are taught in the books more efficiently by taking courses, by watching YouTube videos, or by simply asking ChatGPT. Of course, you can always ask people directly, but obviously, because you have to rely on someone else to get the answer, these are the 3 I just mentioned, the simplest ways you can get answers without having to sort of waste time or kind of chase after people. Hopefully that makes sense. So, I know it's a weird question, or I know it's a weird answer. You're probably watching this like, well, I want a list of books to read. Here's my recommendation. Don't sit there and try to read books all the time, because most books aren't going to help you in themselves. If you sat there and read 100 books like I actually have, you're going to realize, one, a lot of books repeat themselves because they borrow the exact same concepts from the same reference point. So you might read 5 different books on habits, and all 5 of those books have the same singular book that was cited. So instead of reading those 5 books, just read that one book. But I would say, without even reading that one book, just go to ChatGPT and ask, how do I change my habits? And ChatGPT will probably just reference that book for you And instead of you sitting there and taking days or weeks or months to read that 200-page book or 300-page book or 500-page book, ChatGPT will just give you the bullet points in 2 seconds, and it'll give you everything you need to know to apply it. The thing that matters most after you understand the concept is that you apply it. And this is where most people go wrong. They don't actually apply the things that they read. A quick story I want to share with you. I had a friend of mine a while back, years ago. I think this is probably 2018. I had a friend of mine, and he got into this big binge of reading books all the time. And a lot of the books he'd read were books I read previously, like in college and when I got kicked out twice. There's a whole background story to that. I'm not going to get into it in this video. But for a few years, I had not been taking classes. I was out of college. And during that time, I read a lot of books myself. I'd sit in the library and just read books. So he read a lot of the books that I had already read. So I knew what the books were about. And so a lot of times I read books multiple times. I don't just read a book once. Not every book, but a lot of books I read multiple times. Or maybe one time I'll kind of go through it and then I'll go back and I'll take notes. And then the third time I might read the notes. So I'm revisiting books frequently. Not including me looking at summaries or YouTube videos or courses from the same author or anything like that. He'd read a book, and I realized that after reading the book, he would say how good the book is, but it never felt like he was applying the concepts in the book. And again, I had read the book, so I know what the book's about. I'll give you an example. He read at one point How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one of the main rules was use people's names when you speak to them, because a person's name is one of the sweetest sounds that they'll ever hear. I think that's actually a quote from the book or something along the lines of that. And this is one example. He would never use people's names. There was another book he read about how to kind of be more charming. And in the book, it would sort of say, you don't want to always rely on insulting people, because when you insult people too frequently, they take your insults as a personal attack rather than what you might be intending, which is just playful teasing. Does that make sense? He didn't use that concept effectively. He would insult people frequently, and you can tell people took it personally, but he never seemed to catch on to it. So I remember one time asking, I said to him, you like the book so much, what's your favorite part of the book? And he'd say, I like the, chapter 2. It was an interesting chapter. And he'd give his insights on what the chapter was about, but he'd never actually apply the concepts in his own life. And I think most people do this. This is not me making fun of my roommate at the time, or I'm not poking fun at him. But what I am saying is that a lot of people do this, where they read books and they don't actually internalize the book to the point where they're applying it in their lives. What they do is they read it, they feel good that they read it, and then they remember it maybe, but they don't use it, which defeats the purpose of the book in itself. So, shortcut all of that by just not reading the book. Going on ChatGPT or Google, whenever you have a general question, let Google or ChatGPT answer the question, and then immediately once you get an answer, apply that answer into your life to the best of your ability. Some answers you get, you're not going to be able to apply that quickly for obvious reasons. Like, say, for example, if it's 10 p.m. at night and you go on ChatGPT and you say, how do I get a six-pack? And ChatGPT says you need to eat 2,000 calories and go to the gym 7 days a week. Obviously, you're not going to accomplish all that at 10 p.m. on a random Tuesday night. But you could apply that the next day, or begin to apply it the very next day. Does that make sense? So, hopefully that all makes sense to you, and hopefully that answer that I'm giving you is not too controversial or too weird. To sum things up, stop reading books so much. Mainly, it's not the best use of your time in general. Most books out there are just repeats of books, or of better books that were already written. And your time is better used by simply just consulting Google or ChatGPT for a very specific answer when you have a very specific question. Hope this video helps. Like I said, if you want to see more answers like this, be sure to check out the playlist, which should be here or somewhere. And if you don't see it anywhere around here, it'll be down there for sure. So, hope to see you in the next video. Peace out.